the what do they call it? Neuropsychology? Is that what you called it?
NLP, neuro-linguistic programming.
Yeah, that is just fascinating, and it makes perfect sense to me. I'm a psychology dork, so it just totally makes sense to me.
Right, and I was having this conversation last night with my wife because she's in the business as well. She actually took over all the referrals that I still generate, and she was. Sometimes I'm too close to her to where she fights the coaching or she fights the advice, but every now and again she opens her mind up, and it's funny because she just started to apply some of these concepts yet again to her business on a consistent basis. She says to me last night, she goes, I'm amazed at how big of an impact a few words can have on a person, especially in this process. And I'm like, I know. It's really, truly, it really, truly is the art of our business. When you look at what we are up against every single day, when you look at the competition that we have to compare ourselves to, we find it very, very difficult to, I'm going to say, sink down to their level, because most credit unions and bankers and big discount shops, they don't provide their teams or their LOs with any kind of training or coaching on how to handle client relationships. All they have are these really big mechanisms that drive in leads, that drive in people, and drive in credit card numbers to get application fees. I've struggled with that for a good part of my career, and what you see today is a result of me saying there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way to do this and have people value me the way that I believe I should be valued. And when you sit in front of a customer and you sit in front of a realtor, you sit in front of a FA or a CPA or an attorney, most people have this feeling of what they are to their clients. The problem, just like you and everybody else, nobody's ever really created a dialogue that provides them with the confidence and the clarity to speak it in such a way that evokes emotion. So when we talk about everything that we do, we typically talk about it in a very neurocortex point of view, which is the black and white side of our brain, the engineering side of our brain, the facts and figures side of our brain, which is fine and dandy, but people do not make decisions. People do not act based on facts and figures. What they act on is the limbic part of our brain, which is where we feel, which is where we have love, where we genuinely kind of embrace the things that make us happy or sad. The problem is that it's hard to dialogue when you're in that point of view. When you're talking about feelings, it's hard to convey that in a professional setting, let alone in a personal setting. So when you sit down and you understand that the language that we're really working through is truly the art of getting people to like you, trust you, and believe you in a very short period of time. And then the rest of it is you just do what you've always done. Be the professional, be the awesome person, be the person that you've always been, but let's do it in a way that amplifies the relationship. So, Steve, good morning. Steve's gonna get on the call here real quick. So I'm gonna tell you guys both a quick little story that I share with a lot of people, but I think it's relevant because it sets the tone for really what the impact that this can have on your business. So I'm going to use my wife again, Denise. So Denise has lived in Michigan now for the past, be 2 years in July. She moved up from West Palm Beach, Florida, and she's been in the mortgage business for close to 30 years. So she gets it. The problem is that she works really, really, really hard. She is an unbelievable loan officer. The problem is that when she takes a day off, everything on the origination side stops. So she has a hard time letting go. So it's like she's constantly pushing a ball up a hill, and the moment she takes her hand off the ball rolls back. So I give her a lot of the referrals that my team still generates. And what I did was I said, I'm going to give you this referral, and I want to do the presentation. I have a 15-minute presentation that I'm going to give to the client because the client was referred to me by a really good past client of mine, and I want to see what happens. So, and I didn't tell her this, but in my head, I'm kind of playing this out. So I go in and I do the 15-minute, I call it the doctor-nurse conversation. And I talk about my business model, the triangle of trust, and I talk about how valuable the relationship is that I have with so-and-so, and we'll get into all those details here in a little bit. But so, and I leave. So an hour later, she comes back and she sits down in my office, and I go, so how did it go? She goes, I got to tell you, Doug, I was really uncomfortable. I said, why? She goes, because you were really over the top with that whole dialogue, with that whole conversation. I said, okay, well, that's fair. I'm not going to argue with that. I was trying, A, to prove a point, but B, I wanted to make sure the message was, being delivered to the client as well as you. I said, but you just promised me something. When you start the process, when they get ready to buy a home, please make sure that throughout the process, you pay attention to the moments they say thank you to you, and I want you to say, thanks for noticing, please don't keep me a secret. Can you make that promise to me? She goes, sure. So let's fast forward 45 days. Closing scheduled, she goes to the closing. They're sitting there with a referral for one of his colleagues at the office for a $450,000 purchase price. And she comes back to the office. She's like, oh my God, Doug, I got a referral. I go, that's amazing. And in my head, I'm laughing because I'm like, okay, this is going to be exactly what I thought it was going to be. I said, so let's analyze this real quick because I wanted to drive home the message. And that's where sometimes I'm too close to the fire because then she doesn't take it as coaching. She takes it as me kind of throwing it in her face. But the truth was that I wanted her to see the value in this. I said, so let's just take this and analyze it in two sections. I did a really awesome job at delivering a message of setting the expectations of what we expect. And you did an amazing job of being a loan officer. How many times during the process did you ask them not to keep you a secret? She goes, probably maybe 2 or 3 times. I go, okay, well, it's not perfect, but it's a start. I said, and you got a referral out of it. I said, if I didn't set the stage and I let you go in there and do your normal presentation and you did a great job, would you have gotten a referral? She goes, well, I don't know. I said, well, let's look at your last 10 closings. How many closings have you been at where you got a referral? She goes, none. Okay, so let's just assume for point of conversation that you could be an awesome loan officer and not set the stage. There's a very high likelihood that you won't get a referral before closing. She goes, okay. I said, if I'd set the stage and you did a horrible job as a loan officer, would we have gotten a referral? She goes, absolutely not. We're not even close. Okay, so it begs the question that if I don't set the stage, you do an awesome job, you don't get a referral. If I don't set the stage, or I do set the stage and you do a horrible job, you don't get a referral. But if I set the stage and you do the job that you've always done, it equals a referral. She looks at me and she goes, you're an ass. And the message to me was abundantly clear. Setting the stage for what we do and figuring out how we can communicate our value to our clients is paramount in creating a business that isn't us constantly pushing a ball uphill. It's so self-defeating. There's no question that all of us work really hard in our businesses. The question is, how does our business look when we're not willing to work as hard? I'm lazy. I'll be the first one to tell you guys. I'm lazy as it relates to I will do just enough to get the results that I need, but I won't go past that because I don't see the point in it. Now, I don't mean that from the standpoint of me being, less than professional or anything else like that, but my message with every client was, we are going to deliver a process that is referable. We are going to expect that you will refer us because that's the agreement we are going to have. And my team understood that message, and I understood that message because when I wasn't in the work mode, if I decided to take a couple days off, I was still getting calls. I would still get current client referral calls. I would still get past client referral calls. I would still get realtor calls and financial planner calls because the message was clear that every time I got a chance to work with somebody, I made them look really, really good. I got them to go back to the source and say thank you. Much the same way that you've done with Les, Steve, and much the same way the email that you sent to Ramsey was, Chuck. It's the same concept. The amazing part about this is that what you guys did is what we get out of our clients if we set the stage correctly. And think about what you felt at that moment to send an email. To say what you said in that email was the best compliment I've gotten in a while. I loved it. I didn't ask you. I didn't pressure you. I didn't tell you what to say. I just delivered on what your wants, goals, and needs and expectations were, and you were compelled because that's who you are. Other people, I tell that they have to do that. That's part of my agreement. I tell everybody that because I don't assume everybody's going to. But I will never take an opportunity to not expand my brand. See, my brand, just like you guys, my brand isn't mortgages. I don't believe that I sell mortgages. I know for a fact that I am a horrible loan officer. In my entire career, which started in 1995, I've never run a DOD or an LP findings, ever. Ever. And I'm not joking. It's been never. I couldn't even tell you the first thing on how to do it. And my team and I would have different opinions as to why I don't. The truth is, though, is that I've just never done it because I didn't feel like that was my business. My business isn't getting loans approved. My team's responsibility was to do that. My job, what I got paid to do, was to originate relationships. And I thought and believed that the only way to originate relationships, because I'm not a salesman, I can't sell myself, is to go out and talk to people and get them to see my value and get them to perpetuate that feeling to the next person. And then honor that relationship by doing just as good of a job and having that person go back and say thank you. It's a novel concept. It's not rocket science, but we never spent, in our professional careers, we don't spend or have never spent any time understanding how to make connections through relationships. Every book that I've read,
every basic question.
Yeah.
While we're on the topic, so
yeah,
with the old. So Doug, what do you do? What's your response, or what's your value-added proposition, or whatever?
Oh, that's a great question. I amplify relationships.
So someone asked
their
response. Okay. Well, when you were as a loan officer, that was your response.
Yeah. If I was at a networking event, if I was talking to somebody on a plane, it depends on if I wanted to have a conversation. Because here's what happens. When we get asked the question, what you do, when you respond, I'm in the mortgage business or I'm a loan officer, what's the typical response? The typical response is, oh, no kidding. What are the rates today?
Yeah. Yep.
Do you do conventional VAF? I mean, the questions are the basic marketing pieces that every company out there pushes to the consumer. I don't want and have never believed that that image serves me well. So much like a picture frame, I take the opportunity when I wanted to. If I didn't want to have a conversation with somebody on an airplane, I would tell them I'm in the loan business and it would shut them right up. Right. But if I was at a networking event,
so you say to me, you say, okay, I amplify relationships. I go, well, that's pretty neat, Doug. What does that look like? What exactly do you do?
So my role in amplifying relationships is I understand the psychology between people talking about me to the people they care about and how important that is in helping them look good to them. See, I believe that people want to feel validated for helping other people because I think everybody's really good at the core. I just happen to do it with mortgages. See, my business isn't about selling mortgages. It's about helping people amplify relationships. So with my realtors and my financial planners and my attorneys and my CPAs, I help them build better relationships with their clients because I teach them how to amplify relationships and get business from people that care about them. And the amazing part is what happens is the shift goes from asking me questions about loans to asking me questions about relationships. And when you help people develop a better identity of who they are and why they do what they do, they'll gladly help you in what you get paid for, but that's not what my purpose is when I meet people. I don't want people talking to me about mortgages unless they need a mortgage. If I'm talking to a borrower about a mortgage, I don't have to tell them what I do. They know what I do. If I'm talking to somebody who could influence me or influence people they know, I don't want them talking to them about mortgages because that's what everybody talks about. I want them to talk about, I get it. My networking events, I used a tagline that was, you'll never care how much I know till you know how much I care. And that message was driven in because I really wanted people to understand how much I cared about their success. So when I'm talking to people in business or in other areas, it's more about how I can teach them how to be a better professional, how to amplify their own relationships. And if I can help them succeed, the law of reciprocity says that I will get what I need in return. And the ask is, please don't keep me a secret, because what I do in those moments is like I talked to you guys about. I'm only looking for an opportunity to get a thank you and a wow. I'm not going to get a wow and a thank you by telling somebody I do mortgages and they ask me, what are your rates? That's not going to give me a wow or a thank you. Plus, it's going to pigeonhole me into being the image that they think I am based on every other conversation they've ever had with any other loan officer. And in my opinion, that sucks for me.
Yep.
That's a crappy proposition for me to stand up and go, how do I differentiate myself when they think I'm a loan officer? Well, I don't ever pretend to be a loan officer. I pretend and I demonstrate that my role is a relationship amplifier. And that's such a unique phrase that people are intrigued by, because what do you mean by that? Well, what I do is understand the value of when you introduce me to somebody you care about, I'm going to make sure everything I do ends up with them coming back to you and thanking you and hugging you for introducing me, because I believe I'm better, or you're better for knowing me and introducing me to the people you care about. Well, what do? Well, I get paid to close loans, but my role is helping people get better and make better choices and help them develop better relationships with the people they care about in business. That changes the imagery of what a realtor thinks about me, because a realtor struggles with this every single day. A realtor has no identity. If you ask them what their unique selling proposition is, and you tell them that I know that every realtor, based on my conversations, they're all honest, they're all hardworking, they all work 24/7, they're all knowledgeable, they all know how to fill out a PA, they all know the market, they all understand real estate, they all have taken their CE classes, every single one of them works in a licensed brokerage shop, all of them, have a commission to get paid, they're all really, really smart and intelligent people if you ask them. But if that's your competition, what are you going to say that makes you stand out?
Right.
And they're dumbfounded. They have nothing to say. They have no unique selling proposition, because as soon as they tell you you're a realtor, what's the first image that comes to your mind? What comes into my mind is that they don't know how to run a business, they don't know how to be referable, and they sure the hell don't have a unique selling proposition that makes them different than every other agent that I've talked to before that. So I treat them as being somebody who needs my help more than I need them. And my help is, I'm going to teach you how to be more referable, but the best way to make sure that I can continue to help you with that is by referring me to the people you care about.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
So when we talk about that question, which I think is a great, it's actually a really, really powerful statement. You're going to be asked that question from here until the day you retire. What do? You have a choice of either telling somebody something about you that you want them to know, or not telling them something and just giving them the answer that's canned like everybody else. The problem is that we're so hardwired. Just like we hear the word thank you, we go, no problem, my pleasure, glad I could help, it's my job, blah. I mean, we repeat just these very basic responses that just politely shut the door in people's faces when they're standing there going, I'd love to help you, but I don't know you need help and you haven't really told me you need it. Much the same way that when we talk about perception, people's perception of us is based on whatever interaction they've had with anybody else until the moment they've hit our doorstep. And I never took that lightly. I never took that for granted. I know my competition is horrible. My competition is horrible. They're all hardworking, but people don't know that until they sit down and actually see what you do. So you have a very small window of time to create an image of yourself. And the only way to do that is to learn the skill set of what it means to be referable. And my language is just mine. I mean, I'm not saying it works for everybody, but I have a large group of people who get on a call with me every week who want to learn how to do this more consistently. And the truth is that it's not rocket science. I'm just linking the heart and the brain to each other. I'm giving you the language that your heart already feels, because I believe both of you guys possess that skill set. I'm giving you the language that's necessary to articulate that, because I said from day one, there's only one thing that makes you and I different than every other loan officer around our market and in this country. It has nothing to do with rates and fees. It's what we say that comes out of our mouth that makes us different. So if I'm sitting down with if I'm sitting down in front of a client, and then you and Steve are both going to be sitting down with the same client subsequently after, I believe that the client will end up choosing me, and they will be comparing you guys to me, not me to you guys. And I don't mean that arrogantly. I mean that from the standpoint that my ability to connect and develop a relationship with these people and articulate my values so they get it is bar none the best I've ever heard. And it doesn't guarantee me 100% success every single time. But what it does is it helps me define myself so that I can make the decision on whether or not I want to work with them, and they can make the decision if they want to work with me. Who wants to be in the driver's seat in the client relationship? You or them?
They want to be. Well, I mean,
they want to be.
Yeah. Technically, yeah, they do.
They do. The problem is that they don't know what they don't know. Giving them the keys to the car and asking them to drive is like putting a blindfold on them and getting them behind a big van and go, find your way home. It's going to end up in disaster. But we don't believe we have the right to give them consultative advice. We don't believe we have the value in ourselves to manage their fears and expectations and tell them no. And that largely comes from the lack of value that we give ourselves. How can we expect our clients to understand our value if we don't even know our value? And I'm not saying value is that I'm a great husband, I'm a great father, I'm a great whatever. I'm talking about your value. My value is that I'm a relationship amplifier. I know for a fact that every time I talk to an LO, every time I talk to a branch manager, they're going back to whoever put me in touch with them, and they're saying thank you, just like both of you guys. That's my value. I know that nobody else has the ability of doing that as well as I do. And that means that every decision and every conversation and everything that I do is predicated on making that happen. I amplify the relationship between you and Ramsey. Ramsey and you now have a better, slightly better relationship because you know that he's looking out for your best interest, and he knew a guy like me, and if I help you grow your business, you owe Ramsey a big thank you, and Ramsey and I have a better relationship for it. You want to sit in front of a realtor and tell them why they should use you? Master the art of the triangle of trust. Master the art of communicating that value to your audience, not only with your clients, but your realtors. Your realtors have never heard it before. Your realtors don't know how to do it. They all work really hard, but I bet you $1 million that a client, if you ask a realtor if they prefer to work with a lead or a referral, what do you think their response is going to be? 100 out of 100 times, they're all going to say referral. Steve, would you agree with that?
Absolutely, yeah.
100 out of 100 will raise their hands and go, I would prefer to work with a referral. And if you ask them why, they would go, because they already trust you. There's a high likelihood that they'll use you. They come already with an endorsement. How about the fact that they're free? How about the fact that they respect you? The problem is that nobody understands how that happens. Nobody understands why referrals take place. Nobody understands the art of actually creating moments that are referable. So every day the client wakes up and goes in, or the realtor wakes up and goes into their office, and what do? They sit at their desk and they hope. They hope. It's like a drug. Hopium is a drug. I will never hope on business. I will never hope that a realtor will like me to refer me. I don't care if a realtor likes me, because I don't think most realtors, who might be great people, are referable. I don't believe that any of them understand how to run a business. I don't think any of them understand how to create a relationship with their clients. That's why when a deal goes sour at the slightest turn, they freak out. And the reason they freak out is because they have no ability to do number 3, which is manage their clients' fears and expectations. They don't have the confidence or the clarity or the vision to go, I have value. That's why they have no value. They have no value because they perceive they have no value. And if you ask them what makes you different than a for sale by owner box or the social media, you could go get a for sale by owner, post your home up on the internet, in a variety of different websites and sell it by yourself and hire an attorney for $500 or $600 to look over the documents to protect you. Why would I pay somebody 3%? And a realtor won't have an answer for you, except they're honest, they're dedicated, they're loyal, they'll help you. Really? That's all you have? Everybody's going to do that. Sorry, I get a little frustrated when I talk about agents because I can't stand them.
Oh, you're telling me. Yep.
Realtors in my mind are have a false sense of privilege because our industry, lending, has done a really good job of making them feel like they're the prize. And the honest to God truth is that we are more of a prize than they are, because compare me to any other realtor in the market, I bet you I make more money than 90% of them. You guys probably make more money than 90% of them. The point is that why would I assume that you're the prize when the truth is that I run a better business than you do. I make more money per loan than you do, and I'm probably more financially sound and savvy than you are. And I don't mean to say that you belittle the agent, but when you sit in front of a realtor for the first time, my questions with an agent are significantly more powerful than me asking them what they did this weekend. My whole presentation is centered around the triangle of trust. My whole presentation is centered around my value system, and I don't give them a chance to think anything otherwise. So what I typically do with a realtor appointment is I schedule it, and it's for 30 minutes. And I take my phone out and I hit the stopwatch, and I time it for 30 minutes, and I tell the realtor, I respect your time. I know you're busy, just like I am. I promise you 30 minutes, and I'm not going to go a minute over. So while we're here, let me just start by getting a couple things out of the way. I'm sure you're sitting there asking yourself, why do I want to use him, or why am I here? The truth is, Mr. Realtor, I'm asking the same question about you. See, I've been on 100 realtor appointments, and I have very rarely do I ever find a realtor who I think fits my business model. See, my business model is somewhat unique because it's driven 100% based on how well I or my team amplify relationships. And we'll get into that in a minute, but let me ask you a couple real quick questions just so that I can see if this is going to be a good fit. What's your definition of a successful transaction? And I've heard they don't fire me, they don't yell at me, I get paid, I get a hug, I get a basket, I get a thank you, and they stumble through it. And I wait, and I wait, and then I respond with, my business really has one singular purpose, and that's to get a referral. See, the definition of a successful transaction for me is getting a referral. And I think getting a referral can be accomplished when all hell breaks loose on a file. And it can be done as long as you know how to manage your client's fears and expectations. So I think that, getting a referral is paramount. That's what we're after. So would you prefer to work with a lead or a referral, Mr. Realtor? Every one of them will say, I prefer to work with a referral. Do you have enough referrals? Guaranteed. Every one of them. You say no. And the follow-up question to that is, so what makes you referable? If you want referrals and you prefer to work with referrals, and you think the definition of a successful transaction is a referral, well, wouldn't it stand to reason that you would know what makes you referable so you could do it more often? They don't have a good answer. And my response is, you know what? I've analyzed this business up and down, both ways, backwards, forwards, and the truth is that every transaction that ever goes south happens for one reason. It goes south because of the lack of communication, the lack of ability to set expectations and manage them. That's really what happens, plus some other things. But I've analyzed that and understand that underneath this umbrella of communication, what makes my team very referable is that we perform 3 distinct functions throughout the entire process. We perform at such a high level at all 3 that our clients understand what makes us referable. See, we're great consultants. We're going to pull the expectations that our clients have out of their head and put it on paper and analyze it. We are going to set the expectations up of what is going to go on, what's going to happen, and take whatever their perception of reality is and alter it, or make it reality and tell them that up front. That's what a good consultant does. We're not afraid to tell our clients no. We're not afraid to tell our clients that they're not a good fit for us. But they're coming to us because we are the best person for them to talk to about what their options are, knowing full well that we may not be the best option for them to do the loan with. But that's not the reason we do it. We do it because we owe our clients that much. The second thing we do is we do a hell of a job negotiating. See, we treat every one of our clients' process as if we were going through the process ourselves. We treat that money like it's our own. And then the third thing that we do is we do an exceptional job at managing our clients' fears and expectations, because all of this ties into what my business model is really centered around. See, I believe that we amplify relationships to get referrals. And what that means is whenever a client, let's say you referred us somebody, we're going to make sure that that client at the very least comes back to you and says thank you. Because I believe that if I get in front of them and I can make you look good by getting them to say thank you to you, then you stand the better chance of getting them through the process and having them like you and possibly refer you if you follow some other steps that we can help you build your business around. But most of the time we end up helping the client. We end up helping the client get a mortgage. And what happens is when we go through the process of getting them to go back to you and say thank you, and then we create a process that's referable, that means that we now have created a business model that nobody else can touch. That client now goes out and advocates us to the people they care about during the process, because I believe that that's the best time for them to talk about us is during the process. We have a captive audience, so to speak. So I have to ask you this question.
Let me ask you, what was the number two? I know this is recorded. I got a bunch of meetings all afternoon. So I'm uncovering the client's hidden, unknown fears, concerns, or whatever. The third is I'm managing fears and expectations. I'm consulting. Okay.
Consult, negotiate, and manage fears and expectations.
Thank you.
And so the point in that is that this is the presentation that when you sit in front of a realtor, they don't have an answer for this. They've never been told this. They don't understand. They don't get it. That's when you can look at them and go, if you really want to learn how my business works and how it can be a great partnership for you, I don't know if you have a lending relationship that refers you and that amplifies your relationship and actually does it consistently and predictably and makes it so that you and I have the best chance to get future business because we as a team look really good in front of your clients. If that's not the model that you have currently with the lender you're working with, then maybe we should talk about this in greater detail at another meeting. But today I'm still trying to figure out if you and I would be a good fit. So tell me a little bit about what your business looks like. And just listen and wait for them to turn the tables and start asking you questions and start frogging you and start developing a rapport with you. Pretty soon, after that presentation is over, you now are the one sitting in the position of being the prize, not them. They're going to think they're the prize, but every time you bring it back to them and say, are you happy with the volume of business that you did? Do you track your business? How many referrals did you get last year? How many current client referrals did you get last year? How many referrals do you get annually? Do you know your numbers? These are all things that business owners talk about. And that's when you can look at them and go, you know, Mr. Realtor, I think you're a great guy, and I know your business will be there tomorrow, just like mine will if we choose not to work together. But I don't see, I don't see a connection where I feel like I could help you with your business, because in order for me to build my business through relationships, the partnership of a realtor has to be equally as strong, because otherwise the client judges us both for the same result, and I don't want to be a part of that. So I wish you the best. If you ever want to learn or if you ever want to develop a better strategy to get more business naturally and for free, I would love to work with you on it. But as it stands right now, I just don't think we're a good fit. Have a great afternoon. At what point does the realtor look at you and go, I won't do business with you? Is it because they might think you're arrogant, or they look at you and go, oh my God, I just was told what I've always felt like I needed? No different than the way you guys are engaged in the call with me today. The same result occurs that you're going through when you talk to a realtor, when you talk about this process. And it's all about amplifying relationships. It's all about making your audience better for knowing you. I don't talk about loans. That's given. I can close loans on time. I can be competitive in the marketplace. But what you're doing when you work with me is giving yourself the best chance at creating future business naturally, which is what you told me you wanted to do anyway. There's your call to action. That's my 2 cents for today, boys.
More than 2 cents.
More than 2 cents. Wow, that's awesome. That makes me feel good. Chuck, what do you think, buddy?
Yep. No, it's good. It's really good.
Yeah?
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
Steve, what did you take away from it? What's that?
What it's done is I know all this stuff about me and that I'm amazing, and what you're doing is you're giving me a templated, logical way to express it to others. You know, what I've often relied on is I just get my online social media reviews. Like I have like 100 5-star reviews out there. What I've relied on is just getting those in front of people and say, hey, I know I'm awesome. Let me have other people tell you I'm awesome. You're telling me how I can express that I'm awesome face to face.
What you're giving them is, but you're saying it without using the I and the me. You're basically painting a picture, because amplifying relationships is not about you. Triangle of Trust is not about you. It's all about developing better relationships and helping people understand the power of them. And by doing it that way and telling a story, you're giving somebody something visual, because you can draw it. You're giving something very auditory. And in a lot of ways, people can feel what it's like to get a thank you from somebody. I mean, let's be honest. When was the last time you guys were thanked for giving somebody some advice or direction that made their life easier? I get that. It's a great feeling. It's an amazing feeling to have somebody call you up and go, oh, Doug, thank you so much, man. The guy you put me in touch with, or the service you recommended, or the way you told me to do it is great. That's why my band of partners is up over 55 people. It's not because I'm asking people to join it. I tell people about it, and they're attracted to it because I'm giving people a reason to want to learn, and I'm helping them grow their business, what I think is the natural way.
Yeah, organic is what kept coming to mind. So organic, or natural is the right word. Yep.
And when you talk to your clients, this is what sells them on you. This is what convinces them that you are the right person, and it basically gets you farther away from the commodity of the business. The only reason the consumer talks about rates and fees is because they don't know what they don't know. They don't understand all the things that go on. They only know rates and fees because that's how they feel like they have to judge you. Well, the truth is that that's a great question, Mr. Client, but I'm going to be the one that brings up the rate to you, not you asking me. If a client asks me about rate, it's because I've not done a good enough job providing a value proposition to them first. So my job is to get that proposition out to them first, and then you know what happens with rate and fees? It becomes 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 10th question down the line. Because at that point, they know they're in over their head. They know that they're in for a long, bumpy road possibly. And they just want somebody to help them manage their stress while they make this move for the first time or the second or third time. And that's a big deal. You're not going to get 100% of the people every time. There are going to be the people that think they're smarter than you and know more about you, and because they're engineers or doctors, they have the arrogance that makes them feel like they're perfect. That might be the case sometimes. But I've been in the business long enough to know that somebody tells me that they can get a better rate someplace else, I'm like, go for it. I told you from the beginning that I'm really competitive, but I'm not the cheapest rate out there. And you know what happens? Not all the time, but a good number of times, they end up coming back because what they were sold didn't happen because the person didn't do a great job consulting them. They didn't consult them at all. They simply threw a rate at them, and the guy was attracted by it because he thinks that we're all the same. Well, I'm giving them the definition of why we're not. That's why they're going to compare everybody else to me, not me to everybody else.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Do you like it, Steve? Was it good?
It is good. But this language, I mean, it's so new. It's so different. But it feels good. I used a lot of this, and since we talked last week.
Yep.
And in talking, I'm still at the point of telling people for the first time I have my license now, and to say some of these things was just great. It really was a great way to say this, and and what you challenged me to do last week, it was not perfect. It was awkward and stumbled through it.
Sure. Didn't I tell you that? Didn't I tell you that?
But you know, Doug, what was really neat, I was, yesterday, I went back to my AT&T office, which is here local.
Yep.
And, you know, a couple of other retirees went out there. We had lunch with folks. I met about 8 or 10 people and was in one-on-one conversations and was in group conversations. And, you know, I was able to, you know, to give a business card to someone, and because of what you had exposed me to, I was able to say not the same thing every time, but I would say, you know, something like, you know, if you refer me to someone you care about, I'll make you proud. Things like that.
Wow.
And it felt good.
Because it aligns with what you are as a person. We're all good. We all get jaded because this business burns us out, kicks us down, and just constantly strips us of what we think our value is. Because we get into these situations where people just commoditize us. The language here is all about shifting that perspective.
And
that's all it is.
I like it. It is going to be hard for me when someone says, what do you do, for me to say, I originate relationships. Doug, I can see their eyes rolling and them thinking, okay, what kind of multi-level scheme are you into?
Yep. That's why you say I amplify relationships, not originate, because originate has a sales connotation to it. And when you say amplify, that doesn't mean, it means differently. It means that what you're doing is you're putting people's relationships with, you know, with other people in a position to make them better. And so that could mean, are you a family therapist? Are you a counselor? Are you a coach? I mean, it could be a multitude of different things. But the idea is to get them to stop and question it. You want them to engage with you beyond just rates and fees. The art of doing this helps push you away or pull you away from the idea that we're all the same. And you don't have to be perfect at it. Just the fact that you don't say I'm a loan officer. Just don't for the fact you say, you want to tell them that you're in the loan business as a byproduct of what it is that you do. Because your brand, both of you guys have a brand, and the brand is not loans. That's not what your brand is. Your brand truly is amplifying relationships. Because if you think about it, every time that you guys have done business in any form, it's always been done because you want to do your best, you want to get recognized, and in some way, shape, or form would love somebody to notice it and give you an attaboy. Well, to me, an attaboy is a referral.
I've been turning over the concepts over the last week. Just the concept of being referable, just the idea, are you referable? That word is new to me.
It is.
I have, of course, everybody wants to be referred, but I just have never thought of that in this context. It's very intentional. You're going after the referral. And in going after the referral, that necessitates that you are excellent along the way from start to finish.
Bingo.
But
Bingo.
Just the concept of that is powerful. And the concept that if you think enough of me to refer me to someone that you care about, then you don't have to worry about that being reflecting bad on you down the road.
Bingo.
I mean, that is saying
you don't even have to say it. You don't even have to say it. They get it.
That description was with negative words, but it's different. But I like it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank
you.
Hey,
let me ask you something. I want to make sure that I just haven't missed this, because you've used the term triangle of trust, and I'm not sure I understood how you identified that. Does that mean that the consulting, the negotiation, and the managing of fear? That's the triangle.
No, that's not. Nope, that's actually not the triangle, but I'm glad you brought that up, because I wasn't sure if we talked about it last week or not. We don't have time on the call today to go over it, but what I will do is we will spend the entire next week's class or next week's call on nothing but just the definition of what the triangle of trust means, so that I can help articulate it for you guys.
Okay. And hey, Chuck, I had, this is the first time we've been on the call together, I think. Good to meet you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You as well. Are you in Texas? Where are you?
I'm in Dallas, yes. Are you new to S&P?
What's that?
Are you new to Success Mortgage Partners?
New to Success, not the industry. Yep.
Not new to the industry. Well, I'm very new to the industry.
Good. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's like a drug, Steve. You'll never get away from it, I promise.
Uh-oh.
That's what I was just thinking. I was exactly what I was thinking.
Yep. Steve and I both. I've been in the business since 1995, and I know Steve's been in the business for a number of years, but he tried to get out, and much the same way that drugs make you an addict, you can't ever fully recover from being in this business, and always draws you in.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, thanks.
It's a good thing, and I'm going to teach you that it's okay to be addicted to this kind of drug.
Okay.
The drug of getting referrals and the drug of helping people out can be very, very rewarding and very, very profitable as well.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Okay, guys.